Hello, Olya. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Uh, Great to be talking to you today, Olya, about coaching culture, about how businesses can better empower their managers. We've had a few conversations about this topic before. This really is important, especially right now with many companies moving to remote working, having to manage virtual teams. It's also important throughout the business process for companies to make sure that they have better experience for their employees and that managers can form those trusting relationships in their companies and in their teams. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. Hi, and hello everyone who's tuning in today. I'm really excited to be talking about this subject. Coaching has become somewhat of a mysterious superpower that every manager is striving to possess these days. People are realizing it's something really important. So great to be sharing some actionable tips and ideas with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Olya, before we begin, can you tell a bit about yourself and what do you do?
Yes, of course. So I am in the people field. I have a background in psychology and transformational coaching, employee experience and culture in companies. It's something that is really motivating me to just be in the people function. I really try and empower people to be their full selves at work. So where I've been before, we're always sort of scaling tech startups. And I've learned a lot by just working with people who have all this energy and want to build something new. So it's been a great journey for me. And where I'm finding myself now, I am a people manager at Switchee. We're a team of 25 people and we're growing. And I am there just looking after everyone's experience, making sure that they're all happy and fulfilled.
Uh, awesome. Thank you, Olya. And I really look forward to hearing about your experience of making sure everyone's happy on your team. Uh, a little bit about me. My name is Pavel Golenistsev. I'm a business psychologist. Uh, the work that I do, I really bring in the strong belief that with most of us spending at least 1/3 of our lives working, we do want to make sure that we're having a great experience as we're doing so. And I see my work as the purpose of what I'm doing in making sure that people have the careers that they really like, they really enjoy having, and to make sure that businesses know how they can best hire, develop, engage, and retain their best people and make sure that everyone can be at their best at work and happy with what they're doing at their work. I have previously worked as a senior consultant at IBM, working with over 20 UK and international companies on their employee engagement strategy and making sure that the work that their managers, their leaders do is really the best interests of their employees. Olya, I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. We've had a few conversations before about the power of coaching in organizations, and I think there's so much we have to discuss and share today with our listeners.
Absolutely. Let's crack on.
Yeah. Uh, Olya, in our previous conversations, I think it's always been very insightful, very interesting for me to hear about your experience as a people manager. You worked in several growing startups, having to wear many different hats, having to be a coach, a listening ear, an operations manager, all of those things for so many people. Can you tell about your experience of coaching and enabling your teams?
Absolutely. I find that um, in my career, in sort of the companies where I worked, it was almost an integral part of everything that I had to do. In my job as a training and quality manager for an operations department, coaching was a massive part of my job because that was about helping people run operations better. And one part of it was obviously all of the training stuff and kind of feeding the information in, almost like being a mentor. And another part was the coaching part. And I find, especially also with like my psychology background, that all these three things, training and mentoring and then coaching and then like being a psychologist, all these are so different, but at times on some levels to some people they seem very intertwined and almost the same thing. So this is where the challenge comes with really understanding what coaching is compared to just training somebody and giving them a presentation or running a webinar for them. So for me, kind of coaching has always been really important, and it's been really relevant with the stuff that we were doing, because the main lore of it is aiding the process of change or aiding the process of changing a certain behavior. And currently, for example, we are working through times where we had to change our working styles, change our behavior around our routines at work and things like that. So now more than ever, it's become really important to focus on the coaching aspect of empowering our people to go through this period and remain with kind of all of their mental health intact as we go through it, as we adapt to new workflows, as we kind of learn about building trust online with our new managers, for people who found a new job in this period, for with our new colleagues or with new clients. And coaching is extremely relevant today, in my opinion, just as it was relevant for me before. Now it's kind of almost even more so.
Uh, Absolutely, Olya. You are mentioning some very important points about the importance of coaching right now, how now it's more important than ever, and and the question of actually knowing what's the difference between coaching, training, mentoring, all of those different things. Um, and it is important to make the distinction, especially in the companies where many managers are expected to be coaches or can really benefit from having the coaching skills to have that understanding of what that is. I think it's important to recognize that as a manager, your job is to enable others to perform. As a coach, it is to make sure that others have uh, are empowered, have all the most of the solutions already within them, and that you help them to uncover those solutions. And then you as a manager can help them to have the right resources, the right processes, connect them with someone, help them to remove some of the administrative blocks on
Mm-hmm.
their way. But as a coach, it's up to you to make sure that the person doesn't have the sort of limiting beliefs, as we call them. Things like, oh, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can make this project work because I don't think I'm competent enough, or I don't think that I can make this happen because I have this belief about myself. As a coach, uh, managers can really help people to overcome those better. And in my experience working with coaching, I think it's really important to understand how much coaching can do for a person's well-being, for a person's sense of being happy, engaged, fulfilled at work, having a great experience at work. Because thanks to coaching, a person can tap into their own sources of focus, energy, motivation, and understand what's going on for them. Thanks to
Yeah.
coaching, a person can really find their way of doing work. And as a manager who is also a great coach, that that person's creative, positive energy can then be channeled to meet the business objectives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe one other way to help visualize what is different between just training someone and coaching someone is maybe to think of it in a way that if you imagine training as a subject, as an item, the main part of the training is the training material as is. And when coaching, the main part of coaching is the person that is being coached.
Mm-hmm.
They are the material, they have everything inside them. And the goal of a coach is to bring that to the front for them to look at and absorb in a different light through a different lens.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. That's very well put. Uh, in your so Olya, in your experience of uh, uh, enabling managers or in the startups where you are a people manager,
Yeah.
how how have you helped uh, managers and leaders acquire those essential basic skills that can help them to be better coaches?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I have a perfect example to share with you guys today. So I have been coaching a manager in the past for how to be a better manager and a better coach for his team. And one of the first most base things that we had to discuss was him being transparent about that journey that he was taking himself. So at times we almost feel as managers that we have to be those beacons of ultimate everything. I have all the knowledge you need. You are reporting into me, so I can tell you everything. I will look after you. You are safe with my team and with me and all that stuff. But what is a lot more human and a lot more healthier for building trust in this relationship between the manager and their team member is when the manager actually is transparent about the fact that they are themselves on a journey of learning how to be a better coach to them, that they are themselves developing. And by kind of embracing this together, embracing that vulnerability of your coach, you are almost kind of empowering your team member to confide in you even more. Sharing your vulnerabilities with them will encourage them to share them back with you, which is sort of the base of the human relationship. We share stuff with each other, and that makes us even more comfortable to keep sharing stuff with each other because we find ourselves in this safe space. um, and just when it comes to coaching, I think sometimes people, again, they interpret coaching in a way of almost this training mentality again, like, oh, I'm being coached, that means I'm being trained, that means learnings are going to be shared with me and I have to absorb them.
Mm-hmm.
um, so it's about also kind of taking that mentality away from, this is the learning that I'm going to give you, and putting this, in another light and saying, actually, these are the goals that we are going to achieve from this coaching experience, and let's focus on that future. Because as I mentioned before, coaching is about change, and it is about looking forward to something that is going to be different from this very moment today. So helping managers to bring that conversation forward with their team member, with their coachee about, let's focus on what's going to happen next. These are the goals that we have in mind. So let's talk about what are different things that you think, should be happening around that for you to get there. And those two really is like the base for building that relationship. Of course, a lot more comes into kind of building that sustainable process.
Uh, yes, yes, and yes. You are mentioning some of the very important aspects of coaching in that it's about being future focused. It's about seeing what's the situation right now and how we as a team and you as an individual can move there in the future. And I think it's important here to make a distinction between uh, coaching for performance and coaching for the overall sense of well-being, the sense of having that headspace to be able to come up with new solutions and work, think more creatively. When we talk about coaching for performance, it's important to make that distinction. It's about maybe overcoming a particular challenge at work, like making a project go with the limited resources that the team has, or uh, overcoming some challenging relationship with an internal or external stakeholder and understanding how that can be done better. And there is an approach for that. There are coaching techniques, there are ways that a manager can enable that better and have those conversations with their teams. And then there is a sense of coaching for well-being, something that is especially relevant right now with 2020, with the lockdown, with so many businesses, so many individuals having to go through unprecedented times and the new normal and all the buzzwords that we put around it. But the question really here is sometimes it's actually not about performing better as a team, although that's so key for businesses, but it's actually understanding what is it that's going on for a team. Does the manager have the skills to just sit down on a Zoom call, give a call and say, well, just tell me what's been going on for you. Is it the challenges around homeschooling? Have you been feeling some anxiety? Do you feel there's something that we can do for you as a company, as a business? And that's incredibly important for the companies right now to make sure that their managers know how to have those conversations, because that's essentially what is forming the basis for trust, for open and honest communication, for a better employee experience and engagement. Not just talking about the performance and making sure that goals are being met, but actually just having these human connections within teams and between employees and their managers.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think what you're saying is, is really, really true. Um, we now have to really focus on our employees' well-being because being remote, we can't see their facial expressions and their body language outside of the little square on your screen for this 30 to 40 minutes of you having a video call. You do not know what's really happening with them when the camera shuts down. There may be so many things that you're not aware about that your employee maybe is not comfortable to share with you, or just doesn't feel like they have to share it at all. So it's about just being mindful that there is something else that's happening behind the curtain. So when you are approaching performance conversations, or kind of when you're trying to coach for performance things for work, you have to make sure that while you are doing that, you're not sacrificing one's well-being. Um, I also feel like that, like any relationship in our lives, coaching is one of those relationships that is going to leave a lasting impact on someone's future. And we really must take that seriously and make that impact being positive as our highest priority. So as you go about coaching somebody for performance, try to not miss out on the opportunities to enhance their well-being as they go through this process. And exactly as Pavel was saying, just checking in with them and asking how they are doing is a great, great tool to help build that relationship. Um, and connecting with people in general is always going to be making your relationship much stronger, empowering you both to achieve better results from coaching. But something else that I think managers really need to focus on is, before they actually begin the coaching exercise, is to try and allocate enough time and resources for themselves to carry that coaching exercise through to the end of it.
Mhm.
We sometimes have had these situations, or I had these situations in the past, at least in my companies, where managers have the best intentions possible and they begin the coaching process, but they underestimate how much time they need to be investing in these conversations, how often they have to consistently happen, and how much of their own headspace they need to have available in order for these conversations to really be fruitful for the other person. And oftentimes that coaching would not be as impactful because of that underestimation of how much actual time and energy has to be invested there. And that is not helpful for one's well-being who is on the other side, because as you can imagine, everybody has their expectations, and expectations from coaching is also a big part. So make sure that you know how much time you have before you tell somebody that you're going to take them on for a coaching journey.
Yes, and I think you are making a very powerful case here for um, creating a coaching culture within organizations, for making sure that it's not just one person or several people or just managers who have some awareness of coaching skills, but also making sure that there is an overall awareness of how to be a coach, how to listen effectively, and how to be a better coachee, how to be coached, how to let go sometimes, and be actually open to have those trusting, vulnerable conversations with someone, and knowing that you can do that in the work environment with your colleagues. And here it's important to have that headspace yourself, because you cannot be as effective a coach if there is something on your mind and you're trying to prove something, or you're trying to really solve the problem for someone instead of just giving them the space and listening and understanding what's going on for them. Having that awareness, not just yourself but within the company, and having that as part of your company culture, when there's almost like a fluidity to relationships, when sometimes someone is a manager, at other times they're mentoring someone if they have a particular set of skills, or if there is a need, if someone senses that there is a need for a more candid conversation, then have that, talk about the performance, talk about what's just going on for the person and listen for them, but have that sort of environment of trust, of openness to exploration, and openness to talking about well-being, and uh, any sort of emotional challenges, the psychology of work within business. And I think embedding coaching deep into culture is so important for achieving that sort of more synchronized set of relationships within a business and teams.
Yeah, I really agree with that. And it's also sometimes people say or some articles say that I love to read online. I just can't help myself when I see like coaching, the power and the positive results. I'm like, on my days, I have to read that. I have to see what they're saying. So um, a lot of them actually you will find, like go and Google it today, you will find that they say that you cannot have a very productive um, coaching uh, relationship when you have internal coaching relationships. So people actually recommend to have an external coach come into your organization and do this for your people, because they have a lot less attachment to the day-to-day, and an employee feels like they're able to open up a lot more to the external coach, because that is almost like a stranger. You can share something with it, and you know they're not going to tell it to all your other friends at work. So there is like a part to that which is very, very true, but there is another part that managers can use in order to make their relationship, coaching relationship, a lot more powerful, and it is to control less and empower people more. Because when it comes to coaching, you have to be really patient. Don't forget your subject matter is the coachee, and it's not you who has to do stuff around them and build stuff around them. For the most productive coaching, you have to almost wait and be patient until the moment that it clicks for your coachee of what that next step is for them and how they themselves are going to get there. And that takes a lot of empowerment and a lot of free reign versus control. And that's why sometimes managers get scared, they get intimidated by this fact. What if I, as a manager, after I've built all my processes and stuff, and I like let my team go on this free reign, take initiative and make decisions, what if they end up breaking half of the stuff I've built? And it's like a true thing that managers worry about, and it's absolutely normal, but I feel that giving that free reign and empowering people and sort of reining back on some of your controlling impulses, it will teach your team to actually make more intelligent, take more intelligent risks along that journey. The work for them will become a lot more enjoyable. They will become more experienced themselves because they will have to go through those processes that maybe you as a manager have already built before, but they need to learn it themselves, and sort of learning by doing, it's a very big thing. So kind of for them, doing that independent work will make them a lot more experienced, and for their well-being as well, and for their job satisfaction as well, having that autonomy is going to make them feel a lot more trusted and a lot more empowered to develop even further, and encourage them in that development.
Yes, and this really reminds me of a question uh, I received just last week. I was delivering a training session for managers and senior leaders of a exciting tech startup that are growing, and they're expanding their team, and they're interested in knowing how their managers and leaders can be better coaches. And the question was about the sort of boundaries, where is the manager, where is it the coach, and how to make sure that there is no uh, conflict of interest between an employee who's speaking with someone who's sometimes wearing a hat of a manager, sometimes wearing a hat of a coach. Sometimes bringing in an external consultant, external coach can be very helpful for the business. But I would recommend also creating a more sustainable solution in the longer term, when there is a possibility for everyone to benefit from the coaching culture, and that knowledge is actually within the business, and something that can be done to avoid challenges to the conflict of interest is making sure that um, that person is coached by another manager, or perhaps when it's about coaching for performance, the person is coached by their manager. When it's about coaching for well-being, coaching for general understanding, for solving some work conflict, the person is being coached by someone who does not have any power within the organizational hierarchy over them. This way, making sure that it's just a pure coaching conversation, or as pure as possible, and that there is no sense of potential retribution. Because even though this may not be the real case, it takes time to build trusting relationships. It takes time to build a coaching culture and relationships where people can really feel open about talking to each other about the challenges that may be coming up for them. Making sure that people in different teams are aware of the principles of the coaching and know how to be effective coaches, and that everyone can actually come up to someone else and say, hi, is there something I can help you with? Shall we book some time for a Zoom call, or for a quick phone call, just have a chat about it, and everyone is open to having those connections. This is really a sign of a high performing company that will succeed in the future, where with us spending so much time at work, we don't want to just be purely professional relationships, with this idea of professionalism itself being quite a made up concept, you sort of used to put people into the boxes of how they should behave at work. But we do spend so much time at work, we do spend so much time worrying at work when we're not at work,
Yeah.
that it really is a case for not just business performance, but for the overall well-being, the population of everyone who is there out work, to make sure that people can talk about their emotions, their experiences, their performance in an open and honest way with anyone, everyone else within that business.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think even when managers uh, actually go out there and open up about their own coaching journey, so when they set an example as somebody who has gone through it and tell about what they have learned about it and how that was useful for them, in a lot of companies, uh, your executives, they are your role models. They are the people that you look up to, because one day you want to be promoted to a position like that and have all that responsibility and all that extra challenging things in your work and things like that. So they do act as role models, and when they are themselves really invested in coaching, when they themselves regularly and consistently support coaching, that really helps the coaching culture overall in the business. So if you are an HR tuning in into this podcast, I do obviously just encourage you to go and talk to your executives about the power of coaching and about what it can achieve in the business, and try and get them on board, try and get their buy-in, because it will be a really huge help for you as you are building that coaching culture in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so important to be having those conversations about the importance of coaching in the business. And while sometimes it can be difficult to measure it, to understand what's the actual benefit, well, the benefit is that there are better relationships. Better relationships mean that your employees have more productive working environment. They have better relationships with your clients. They there are less sick days. They're really excited about starting work on Monday. And yes, this can happen in some companies where people just can't wait to get back to work and be having those conversations. And they just love their brand. They love what they're doing, and they know that they can get all the support they need in their career, in their personal and professional development. And having a coaching culture within your business is something that is an absolutely crucial step and the key ingredient in creating that amazing employee experience.
Yeah, I really stand by that. I think another really cool thing to do is maybe look at uh, that engagement, and that engagement could come from coaching participation, which is, a concept of trying to identify different people in your business who are good at maybe one specific something, and encourage them to coach others around that topic. So maybe if you have somebody who is really good at um, like managing their time, or really good at avoiding distractions at home while working remotely and managing their time, then try and encourage them to be a coach for somebody who is finding it difficult, and and try and just find some other people around the business who would be willing to become a coach for somebody like that. It is gonna just show more participation in the business and encourage other people to look within and see if they can offer something like that to their colleagues.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes just starting those conversations within the business and saying, hey, we're starting this coaching program. Would someone want to coach someone else? Just however you can, and then maybe we can offer some more training, some more support for coaches. But let's just start out. Just because nobody is raising their hand right now and saying they'd like that doesn't mean that your people actually don't want that. Maybe they just don't think it's a thing. But and maybe someone's out there who's a great coach or who's a great at uh, managing working remotely, just sitting there, and they think that everyone is great at it because it comes so easily to them. But just creating those connections and encouraging your employees to be having those supportive conversations. Perhaps everyone can do a learning session, a webinar, if they want to, sharing their experiences, sharing what they're good at, can be so important. And I'd also say that it's important to know what sort of soft skills you have within your company. Who is a good coach? Who is a good mentor? Who is good at training? Who is good at remote working? Who is good at making pancakes? And sharing that experience within the team and understanding where the gaps are in your knowledge and how can you address those with relevant training, coaching programs, whatever. But having those conversations within the business, understanding where the knowledge is. And there is only so much more knowledge in a group of people. As soon as people start talking about what sort of great things they have achieved and can do.
Yeah, I really agree with that as well.
And Olya, thank you so much for this conversation. It's always great to talk to you about coaching, about performance in startups in organizations, about creating a people-centered cultures. Can you tell if people would like to get in touch with you? How can they do that?
Absolutely. So you will see guys on your screen. That's my name down there. Has a really funny spelling. But I'm sure Pavel is going to link my profile in his LinkedIn post for this anyway. So do feel free to, hit me up, chat about culture, chat about employee engagement, and chat about coaching. I love coaching conversations, and I love just sharing my experiences with people for whom this is going to be helpful. I've just finished writing up a leadership training program, which involved a huge course on what it means to be a coach for a leader and how to empower leaders to be really great coaches. So if that content is interesting for you, do reach out to me and I will try and help best I can.
Thank you, Olya, and thank you for finding the time for this conversation and sharing your insights today. Uh, as for me, you can you can reach me on LinkedIn and through my website, businesspurposecoaching.com. Also, I have just finished creating and testing the new course, Introduction to Coaching for Managers and Leaders. And if you'd like to hear about how you can introduce that in your company, then feel free to reach out, connect, and I'll be happy to tell how we can make that happen for your company. Thank you, Olya. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.